Hello my friends and welcome. Let's start this video from the front lines updates. Let's go straight to Pokrovsk Dobropilya direction, where Ukrainian army was partially successful in pushing Russian forces more towards Shakhova. So it was yesterday, it is today. As you see, there was some sort of the movement of this front line, but it's just the update of the map. The clarification of the front lines here, Russians didn't move. It's just the update. But here Ukraine tries to push this encircled part of the Russian forces, few of them. They're trapped here for already very long time. They'll have to surrender or be flatlined. So from all of the front lines, I would say that the good news for the last several months that Ukraine managed to cancel this Russian attack that possessed a really huge threat for Ukraine, for entire Donbass. But if we go to the south here, well, the situation is not good for Mirnograd, first of all, and all of those villages in the south. We have this update yesterday and today. As you see, Russia moves from different of the areas, and this bottleneck, well, it is shrinking every day. Let's check the ruler. So the distance is 2.4 kilometers, basically nothing. Well, still Russians are not presented here with their main forces, just sabotage groups, but they operate during the night time at the bad weather. So for every move in and move out towards Mirnograd and from, well, there is a big threat for Ukrainian supplies. And since it's a very small bottleneck, Russia concentrated their drone operations here, artillery, everything possible. Today, the Ukrainian commander Syrskyi mentioned that there is no operational encirclement of Ukrainian army in Pokrovsk direction, but no, it is. Operational encirclement means that enemy causes lots of the losses and makes it almost impossible to deliver supplies or to move forces out from some sort of the pocket. In this case, it's Mirnograd pocket. Yes, Ukraine may still withdraw forces from Mirnograd, but there will be losses. It means operational encirclement, not the physical one, but operational means enemy fire. So what Syrskyi says, judging on this map, is absolute nonsense. There is an operational encirclement. It is already there for many of the days. And the main idea of Syrskyi, and he mentioned it himself, is to counterattack over here towards Krasnodar to cut Russian forces northern group, but Russia has more reinforcements than Ukraine operating in Suvorovo and Sukhetsk villages. It means that this counteroffensive action has low chances to be successful, and in this case Russia has a higher chance to advance from Pokrovsk itself, to cut this pocket completely, turning operational encirclement into a physical encirclement, and that could be a catastrophe for Ukraine, especially in this direction. It will demoralize the Ukrainian army, Ukrainian society. So I don't know why Ukrainian command didn't withdraw the forces from Mirnograd and those villages. In Pokrovsk, the situation is easier because you can see there is the vast area. So for Ukrainian forces, it's impossible to be encircled in Pokrovsk, as you see, with all of those supply connections, of course, but Mirnograd, hundreds of Ukrainian troops could be encircled. And Russia also tries to move from Kotline. There was the movement of the Russian army. They want to expand to this village, Hryshine, and to this lake. Well, luckily there is a war obstacle, some sort of the river with lakes. For Russia it will be hard to cross it with small sabotage groups. Also, weather plays a great role nowadays. At the morning time especially, there is a thick fog, so enemy may operate, but Ukraine also may send some of the supplies to operationally encircled group in Mirnograd and Mirnograd pocket. Oh, sorry guys, actually it was the advancement of the Russian forces towards Vladimirivka. I checked out the Michael 73 source. Definitely there is update that the Russians try to move here towards Vladimirivka, because from the deep state I didn't have this information in a text form of this Russian advancement. Well, here Ukraine is successful, just a little, and also there is a Ukrainian counterattack attempt towards Nikonorivka that faces the Russian attack. And here we go with the Michael 73 map update. Definitely Russians moved here. So this crossroad, Ukraine is unable to use. And this crossroad, I think, as well. So there is no specific road that Ukraine could use to, well, maybe this small part and the field road. So only one road is still not in a gray zone. But you know, actually no map may give you the information what is actually happening on the front lines. The front lines are boiling. Russians are spotted in Rivne also. Russians could be here, there. The development of events is happening not in terms of days, but in terms of hours. And you see that Russia is also using aviation gliding bombs. It's their idea actually to cut Ukrainian army in the southern sector of Mirnograd and also northern sector. In the northern sector, the Mirnograd itself, they might trap here, cutting this small bottleneck. Yes, guys, unfortunately, the situation on the front lines is like that, just some small, limited Ukrainian counteroffensive, a local one, still successful, and I wonder why Ukrainian command didn't withdraw Ukrainian forces at the proper time. As our military officers say, there is also a difficult situation in Zaporizhia front lines. Unfortunately, Russians break through Ukrainian defense. Actually, they didn't even break through, but they bypassed some of the trenches which were built to protect the region. So you see how many flags they put, and for every flag we have the detailed information with images, confirmations, also from the Russian media sources, like for example, let's watch this video. So those are the Russian flaggers. They put their flags in every of the village. And unfortunately here in this direction, it's not just a Russian flag operation, it's the advancement of the main forces. And for the last couple of days, Russians managed to occupy at least 5 of the villages. And this is the new advancement. So still Yegorivka, Danilivka are in the gray zone, but Russians put their flags very, very far away from the previous positions. They also operate with FPV drones, and here we see one more flag. So Ukrainian defense is here in this area is very, very weak. And here I would say that Russians have already reached the main defense line of Ukraine. It is ongoing from Pokrovsk and goes southbound, all alongside the Haichu River, but this river is not very wide. As you may see, Russians, if they really want, they may cross it quite easily. There are multiple of the places, like for example here, where they may do it. Here you can see this blue, it's Ukrainian defense line and goes like that, and Russians have already penetrated it. So as I said, you bypassed. And if they cross this river, well, mainly there is nothing more which might hold them until they reach Zaporizhia. We call it operativny prostor in Ukrainian. In Russian it's оперативное пространство or operational space, the area which is not that populated, which doesn't have the natural obstacles, which doesn't have the robust defense lines. So you see this defense line goes like that. This is one more defense line, not far away from Orikhiv. I don't know why this artillery, it should be colored in blue. It's the Ukrainian laws here. And you see Russians already crossed this main defense over here. If they do it all alongside, not far away from also Dobropilya, one more same settlement as in Donbass. Basically here there is nothing to hold them, especially in this area. You see just few of the villages. No big rivers, very flat terrain, so straightforward attack to Zaporizhia. Zaporizhia in this case could be reached in a matter of 1 year even, if Russians really break through Ukrainian defense here. Syrsky himself also confirmed the loss of 3 of the villages in Zaporizhia direction, but since that time Russians occupied 3 or 4 more. And potentially, after breakthrough, Russians have pretty much good chances to advance even faster. The goal of this operation is, of course, Zaporizhia, and from Zaporizhia they will cross the shore. They'll advance also from this side. From the right bank of the Dnieper River, they might go to Dnipro. Also, Russians will try to move from Stepnohirsk, but from this direction, actually, it's hard for them because there are so many natural obstacles. It's very difficult for them. Actually, the route is shorter, but for them it's better to advance from eastern side. And I'm already tired speaking about this guy Manko. Well, not just me, for example, this was posted, also reposted by Sternenko. I found it on his channel. So Manko, the colonel of Ukraine, continued to record TikTok saying that they defeated everyone, but actually no.
Ми вже заблокували противника по
I'm sure that we blocked enemy. Yeah, I see how you blocked the enemy. This is the most recent update of the Deep State military map source. 4 villages, 2 days, gone, occupied by enemy. Moreover, as I showed to you before, there is already a breakthrough Ukrainian defense line. This is Ukrainian defense line. Russians penetrated it, bypassed from the flank. But Manko is victorious. He is always winning, and he still has his position. This guy, he revealed military maps openly on his TikTok. I said about it, and somehow Syrskyi still keeps him on his position. And this guy lies openly, but it seems like for high military command, it's okay. Also, Russia is using aviation bombs even in Pisantsy village. Maybe Ukraine is using it as supply hub or something, because it's on the road to Pokrovsk, and this bridge is already gone. Russians bombed it. They cut this part. Well, I guess if they cut this bridge, maybe they don't want to cross this river here to take Pokrovsk. Maybe they want to avoid fighting in big settlements, more or less big. Maybe they want to go definitely across this operative space to reach Zaporizhia straightforward here. The situation in Gulaipole also worsening every day. Here it's gonna be, and already we see the formation of this pocket. It is understandable that Russians want to go to Zelene village, but for that they need to cross 2 of the obstacles. Here, lakes and the river, and here also some sort of, but this is small obstacle actually. And Russians propel mainly with infantry forces without armored vehicles. Well, actually Russians tried to use armored vehicles. They went to Malatek Machka, but they were ambushed, so they don't use those any longer. Russians are using the infiltration tactics, advancing with the very small groups. Then they accumulate forces in some of the settlements, taking the ruined buildings, basements, and after it they use the settlement as the bridgehead, forcing Ukrainian forces to retreat. So that's the most concerned part as for me, because you can see here's the line. Russians broke through, and sorry, not broke through, but bypassed somewhere Ukrainian defense, and they may now use Danilivka, potentially may use it as the bridgehead for the further attacks. And it might look unreal for Russia to get to Zaporizhia in the coming year or maybe 2 years maximum. But let's check out the advancement of the Russian army in this southern or southeast area for extensive period of time, for the last, let's say, couple of years. Or maybe let's take even less, not November 2024, but September, let's say 15th, 1 year and 1 month. You see how map changed, yeah? Vuhledar by the time was under Ukrainian control. There were significant defense lines. Vuhledar was holding for a very, very long time, just because the tactics was different, and the Russians attacked with those big, huge convoys, which were cancelled by Ukrainian drones. Now it is also happening, but just occasionally. The tactics for Russia is mainly different, and they may bypass Ukrainian defense, as I already told you. But nevertheless, here it was very hard for them, because this defense was serious. The Vuhledar was very close to the DPR, so-called Republic, and Ukraine for a very, very long time was building defense lines over here. So Vuhledar was under control, and just look how far it was from the current front lines. Yeah, you see this movement happened for 1 year and 1 month. And we may take the ruler, let's say Vuhledar, and where Russia was spotted today. Actually, they were spotted closer, 73 kilometers. It's quite a lot. Yeah. Now let's check out the distance to Zaporizhia. So from the current Russian positions to the outskirts of Zaporizhia, 81. 81 is very close to the Russian movement that happened for 1 year and 1 month. And if Russians break through Ukrainian main defense line over here, they will go forward even faster. I guarantee you. This is the operational space where they move very fast with their motorcycles, with Mad Max vehicles, even with tanks, but they will move. And Ukraine actually tried to build new defense lines, but Russians operate with their Iskander ballistic missiles, drones, Lancet drones. Also, they launch aviation gliding bomb strikes on Ukrainian engineering forces or just engineering companies who continue to build some of the defense lines. So for now, it's very unsafe now to build those, or they should be built very close to Zaporizhia already, pretty much far away from the current front lines for Russians not to reach those workers and their equipment, at least with the help of the Lancet drones. So maybe over here, close to Zaporizhia, Ukraine may build something, but all of this area, no, there is no solution to defend it. Absolutely. Already it's too late. And I would say it's the most vulnerable direction for Ukraine. In Donbass itself, like Kramatorsk, Konstantinivka, there are still robust defense lines. Also, Ukraine for years and years was building those. And Russia may advance, but with heavy losses. Here they're very slow scrolling, but in Zaporizhia direction, no, it's different. So if there are no changes in Ukrainian military command, if there are no army reforms taking, if there is basically no new reforms in Ukraine, one day we may wake up and Russian forces could be in Zaporizhia, in Dnipro, they may cross the river, they may go once again towards Kiev from the north, because in this case, Ukrainian defense would not even matter, and it's going to be a long partisan war in this case. So this is the worst scenario, but I see that we are heading towards it, unfortunately. At least right now I see it like that, and I already mentioned you many of the points in Ukraine which influence that. And mainly, Ukraine may withstand against Russian attacks, but because of the multiple of the issues within Ukraine, unfortunately, Ukraine has to retreat from multiple of the points, And here we have the situation in Konstantinivka, where Russians already entered the settlement with the same infiltration tactics. They already occupied several of the blocks of the private households, and they're moving forward, and soon there's going to be the fight for the central area, which is here is industrial one. I mean, geographically, the center of the town, right? And here are mostly private households, and this area, they're multi-story buildings. So in December, we expect already the battle for Konstantinivka full scale. So I see that the tactics for the Russian army, it changed a little. Now they don't need to go from at least two sides to get into the settlement, city, town. Before I thought, okay, maybe they're not successful in Chasiv Yar. It was their usual tactics, to bypass the city. But now they may go with a single vector and using those small groups of the forces, accumulate them in the big settlement. And for Ukraine, it is very hard to get rid of them using drones because Russia sends more and more of the forces. So now even a single vector is enough for Russia, unfortunately. And by the way, that's what we witnessed in Pokrovsk. The infiltration was coming from Zvirove and Lentovichi. Yes, so later on it split into two sides, but mainly the advancement happened from a single side. And now Russians with their small groups and partially main army group are controlling 90% of Pokrovsk. And by the way, around 5 days ago, Ukraine advanced towards the central area to the local government building. Ukrainian soldiers put the flag there on this particular building. It was filmed on a camera, but it was just made, unfortunately, here for the video. It was not the full-scale counterattack. It was done for, I think, nothing. Similar to Russian flag operations, which are happening sometimes. And now Russians moved for the last 24 hours, even advanced over here, reaching Ukrainian defense lines. But Ukrainian infantry is not presented here any longer because it's dangerous. It's all controlled, especially this bottleneck, it's controlled by drones. So the good news, as I said to you guys, is just Ukrainian counteroffensive. Zoloty Kolodets, Ukraine was really successful here. The rest of the front lines, it's very hard. Well, also maybe the Sumy region of Ukraine. There were multiple of the Ukrainian counterattack missions, and just yesterday I obtained the information that Russians tried to use the tube once again to advance their forces behind Ukrainian positions. Well, this operation partially failed for Russians. Why partially? Because around half of their forces were destroyed by drones. The rest half of the Russian infantry is hiding in the local tree lines, and Ukraine, by the time I'm recording this video, is working to find them and to flatline. But it's already understandable that this attack of the Russian army towards Sumy, at least for now, it failed. And guys, I already finished filming video, then I obtained the breaking news. There was definitely the case, then the group of the Ukrainian soldiers, several people surrendered to Russians. They had no any other options. It happened in Mirnograd, the area which is now in the pocket. And Russians today published the photo. I cannot show you it fully, that at least 3 of the Ukrainian troops were unalived by Russians, flatlined, and they are posing with those images, and our guys definitely unalived. And it's the worst case scenario I was afraid of. All the time in my videos I was comparing the situation in Pokrovsk, Mirnograd with Avdiivka that happened in 2024. And then the group of the Ukrainian soldiers, substantial group, was encircled by Russians. The group was not exactly in Avdiivka settlement, but very close in those villages. Many of the soldiers were wounded, they couldn't move, and because evacuation was not announced at the proper time, there was no any probability for Ukrainian command to send some evac. So they were just left. It was not possible for them to leave the area. And then the Russians came, they just zeroed everyone. They showed the photos on their Telegram channels, in their groups. It went public, and I was afraid of this scenario, Avdiivka scenario, and I see that it is already happening in Mirnograd, Pokrovsk, Mirnograd pocket. Thanks to Syrsky. Syrsky didn't give the command back then for Ukrainian army to withdraw. He doesn't give it right now. Our guys will die there, flatlined by Russians. I see it. Maybe they will try to leave with losses, but those who are wounded, there is already no possibility to send evac for them outside this pocket. Yeah, I remember lots of the events happened in the past, so I may compare, and I see that Ukrainian military command doesn't learn. There are no any upgrades, updates, no any evolution in decision making. So this article dated from February 2024, Avdiivka, Russians accused of executing prisoners of war after Ukraine withdrawals, and definitely there were shocking images, and now I shared those on my Telegram just for people to understand. Ukrainian Commander-in-Chief Alexander Syrsky says he ordered a retreat from the city in order to save soldiers' lives, but it was done too late. They were trapped. Ukrainian soldiers. Yes, of course, those are Russians who do it. This is the barbarian army. Russians are barbarians. They're crazy. But we should understand, like Ukrainian command should understand that and move the soldiers out, and then it is possible. Not wait until the final moment that then it is not possible. In Mirnograd, it could be a very bad situation for our guys. Yeah, I remember how, so like this is a wounded soldier. He called to his wife to record the final moment of his life. He was wounded. He said, I cannot go. There is no possibility for us to evacuate. No car is possible to get there. And he couldn't walk. So then Russians came, they zeroed him and his friends. It's terrible, guys, what is happening. And the most terrible thing that it's because of the Ukrainian military command. Syrsky. He didn't give the command to Ukrainian soldiers to withdraw at the proper time. Then Russians came to, in this case, already to Mirnograd. and they trapped Ukrainian guys, and some they potentially take to the Russian prisons, and maybe those who are wounded, they didn't want to mess with them, and they flatlined those soldiers. The worst case scenario, guys. The worst case. I was afraid of it. I was speaking about it, I guess, in every of the video for the last few weeks. Then I spoke about Pokrovsk and Mirnograd. Confirmed. The worst case scenario confirmed. Exactly. Avdiivka 2.0. Very, very, very bad. Sorry, I already recorded the video, and news emerged, and I decided to put it, so I'll put it closer to the end of the video. And guys, what I want to say that despite those corruption scandals, despite the situation on the front lines, I call you to support Ukraine in a way you can support Ukraine, because after all, Ukraine is not about those politicians. Ukraine is about people, about freedom, and our people chose to be the part of the democratic world, not with Russia. And if we close the eyes on Ukraine right now, it's a very hard time actually for our warriors on the front lines. So if we ignore them, if we say, like Orban says right now, that, oh, there's the corruption scandal in Ukraine, we should cancel the support. No, now Ukraine needs the support. If you want, really, you need to find out some sort of the trusted fund or trusted persons out there. I would not suggest you to connect to Ukrainian government nowadays to support. Yeah, some Brussels officials, they may do it like via government, but personally I call you to support guys in different way, like with some of the organizations whom you may trust. You may ask me what kind of the organizations. I don't know, honestly. I cooperated with your Finnish friends because I know one of the volunteers, Imania, and because I trust her, I basically fundraise some of the money for fire truck, for some of the cars for our guys on the front lines. And also I support the guys whom I know personally with private fund transferring, that's it. But yes, judging on what is happening for Ukraine, it's going to be very, very difficult, especially if there are no any reforms, nothing. Yeah, guys, sorry again for this kind of the pessimistic video for the second day consecutive. This evening I'm gonna record one more video with some of the positive news. Yes, we have those, but I don't want to make this particular video very long, just, frontline updates for you to see the real picture of what is happening. I'm not making up this information that I tell you. We see what is happening on those military maps. They're available for public use in public sources. I also read the comments from our experts, our volunteers, our officers online, and my commentary is based on their judgment of the situation and my own personal logic. And thank you guys for your positive comments under the previous video, which I dedicated for this big corruption scandal in Ukraine. It's not over. I'm gonna take some break filming about that one, unless there are some of them outstanding news relative to the case. I want to wait more for NABU to release more of the evidence, more of the data, and maybe in 1 month or something, I'm gonna film one more big video with many more details. I guess that video will be 1 hour or something long if we put everything together. Well, my friends, thank you for your kind support, especially on Patreon and membership. The link for my Patreon is in the video description below. As for membership, you may just press join somewhere here. There is the button. Obviously, if you want and can support me, if you are unable to do it, just press your like to this video and subscribe for the channel. That's how you boost this video in YouTube algorithms. Thank you so much for it as well. I wish you all a peaceful sky wherever you are, and have a great time.